snap it, and it's Trey Burton who throws caught. Foles, touchdown.
Here he goes. It's Hester inside the 30. Hester's going to take it all the way for a touchdown.
Fields stumbling, trying to cut it back. Justin Fields making magic happen. There goes Fields. Touchdown.
Hurts on first down, fires downfield. It's Deshaun Jackson back in the lineup. It's the last 7 games, and he will take it 81 yards. A somersault into the end zone. His first touchdown of the season.
You're listening to the Pigskin Project, the world's #1 football podcast. Now, with more insights on all things football, here are your hosts, Ben Hansen and Ryan Matthews.
Welcome to another episode of the Pigskin Project. I have a little animal running in the background right now, so if anybody hears that, I'm very irritated with it at the moment. But you know, I'm not doing anything about it until further notice. Hopefully tomorrow, but who knows? Without further ado, I'm gonna bring in my co-host, who has to bear with me for the next hour or so, however long this is gonna take. But it's another week of football. Ben, your team's going to the Super Bowl, bro.
I was gonna say another exciting week of football. We're going to the Super Bowl, baby, and then afterwards we're going to Disneyland. I hope people get what I was saying there. For those who don't know, it was like if the winning quarterback, I think it's something like the winning quarterback says he's going to this Disneyland after winning the Super Bowl, they give him like $1 million. It's like this crazy amount of money.
Seriously?
Yeah, it's a lot. It's like it's awesome for them. But anyways, good week, man. Good week. Senior Bowl's going on. Shrine Bowl. We're recording is on Wednesday, so the Shrine Bowl game is tomorrow. Senior Bowl practice is this week. As far as life, first 2 college tests this semester are gonna be on Friday. Wish me luck. Got a nice job interview tomorrow. I have 15,000 applications out there floating around. Hopefully something sticks.
I was gonna say, yeah, no, congrats on that. Hopefully it all works out. What I was gonna say, I bought a Nintendo Switch and it came in. So I'm having a ton of fun on that. Unfortunately, I've been staying up really, really late, at this point I should just say really, really early.
I guess
because it's just that bad. So I'm hoping to take a little bit of time tonight just to close the eyes for a little bit and just figure something out there. But no, it's been a lot of fun with that. I started playing basketball. That was a little bit.
That's great.
That's
great.
Man, it's awesome until. Well, the thing is, I found out that I needed some new basketball shoes, and so I ordered those last night because if I would have continued playing, I would have probably hurt myself. And some shoes that I got the James Harden shoes, the Step Backs. Oh,
they're very comfortable. Harden's and Kevin Durant's are very comfortable shoes.
Very comfortable and on the cheaper side too. So that's what I liked about it, dude. I spent like $100 total on everything after shipping and taxes and everything. So great.
And I know we're a football podcast, and this is the last thing. A new basketball paired with new basketball shoes is one of the best feelings. If you're into sports, just in general, so it's a phenomenal feeling.
Oh, and I forgot to mention, I'm gonna be going to a concert on Saturday.
That's awesome.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah, there's this small artist. His name's Eden. I'm gonna be going to see him, dude, in Chicago. Okay, so in the off chance that anybody listens and is going to that, come say hi, I guess. But anyways,
the Irish guy.
Yeah, so he's really, really good. I have a lot of sentiment towards his music, but the thing is, I probably, and I'll be completely honest, because he's such a small artist, I don't know if I would have spent big money on tickets to go and see him. But for $36 a piece, you can't beat that, especially for general admission. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. Hopefully, I live to see another podcast episode. Who knows? I mean, we'll party a little too hard, you know what I mean? But yeah, so let's go ahead and get into our weekly recap because we just had a couple games. For those of you still listening in, I just want to say it's going to be a little bit of a quicker episode because we don't really have that much to talk about, despite, we do have a couple big headlines that we'll get to, but we don't have any games to get to or anything like that, which we'll cover later on too. So the Chiefs, they beat the Bengals. Oh, that was bad. We'll get to that. They beat the 49ers. And I'll say this. I as happy as I am for you, I'm very disappointed that game wasn't any better. And it sucks. It's just unfortunate just because it's not that one team played significantly worse. It's just the injury just kind of blew out all momentum and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It sucks to see, but I'm sure that you're very happy. I'm rooting for you. It's tough to find a Chicago fan that's rooting for the Eagles at this point. So, just wanted to say that. But next up, we'll just get to the drop.
Ryan and Ben bring you weekly news.
Yeah, so the biggest news this week that's coming out, I woke up at like 7:30 to news that had just broken 30 minutes prior. Tom Brady was sitting on a beach and he announced his retirement. He said, but this time it's for real. This time he's stepping away from the game and he's not coming back. With all due respect, he is the greatest of all time.
Yes.
Thank God you needed this. Like, take this time. You didn't need that extra Super Bowl in Tampa Bay. You didn't. You could have left after you lost with the Patriots. My second and last thought on it is I hope that he goes back to New England and signs a one-day contract.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if you have any other thoughts.
No. Okay. So the one thing that strikes me is really odd. Last year, there's rumblings. Maybe he will, maybe he won't. But this year, everyone kind of thought like he's coming back for another year. So this one actually caught me by more surprise this year because last year there was rumblings, will he, won't he, and this year it's kind of just like, oh, okay, I'm retired. Which just, I don't know, not to get too personal into his life because he's, his own person and, everyone makes their own choices, but it's just kind of odd to me that he decided to retire after this past year. He threw his life away to play one season with this team that didn't play very well and underperformed. And maybe that's why he retired, because the outlook is well, they're not going to be good and I'm just going to be playing on a bad team.
Yeah.
But he was a free agent. He could play anywhere. He was a 49ers fan. I fully expected him to go play in the Bay Area for a year or so. And it's just weird to me that he threw pretty much everything that he's known to come, or he's come to know, away to play one season with this pretty bad spot team.
It's pretty bad, yeah. And I expected them to be a lot better too, but I'll be completely honest. Like I said, all due respect to the GOAT, but he didn't play like Tom Brady. He just wasn't that guy this year.
People say that, but I think he was third in the league for yardages or something like that.
I don't think that it was as impressive. But next headline, because it's massive. Sean Payton's returning to the NFL as a head coach, and he's going to the Broncos for and it's another coaching trade that we haven't really seen too much. But he's going to the Broncos for a first this year and a third next year. That's a lot to give up for a head coach, but it's also Sean Payton. So fingers crossed for the Broncos, because it would be so bad if it just doesn't work out. You gave up that much for Russell Wilson, that's a dud, and then you work out for Sean Payton. My dream scenario for the Broncos, for any Broncos fans that's listening out there, you get Vic Fangio back into the building, and you have Sean Payton as your head coach and Vic Fangio as your DC, and then you just kind of rebuild from there. You see what you can take in, see what you can draft as well. I don't see them trading anything more for the draft because they have close to nothing for draft compensation. But we'll see where this goes. I'm really looking forward to it.
I wouldn't be surprised in terms like the draft, the whole draft compensation. I wouldn't be surprised if Jerry Jeudy won't play another down in a Broncos uniform anymore. They need draft capital. Yeah, he needs to get paid, and I'm not saying they should, and I'm not saying it will happen. But with them making this trade, they have no draft capital, and they need that. They need draft capital with the way that the team has played last year. But if anyone's to fix Russell Wilson, it's going to be this guy. And when I first saw it, you see a first and a third for like a head coach, and I don't think any coach is worth that. Yeah. But in perspective, the pick that they traded away was the Dolphins pick. Great. Yeah, it was the Dolphins pick that they got for trading Bradley Chubb. Mm-hmm. So when you put it in the perspective that there's a good chance that they got Vic Fangio and Sean Payton for Bradley Chubb, you consider that.
Well, they also got a third too. So
yeah.
Or we know sent a third. Anyway,
sent a third, but yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I hope that it works out. To your Jerry Jeudy comment, what I do want to say is, as much as I want that to happen, I want Jerry Jeudy to be, on the trade block. I don't see it happening. And I personally, I don't see a franchise trading away I would say its best wide receiver. It's either him or Cortland Sutton.
Yeah, it's Cortland Sutton, and then I think people forget about Tim Patrick. Like, he was hurt,
I'd
so
take
everyone
Jerry
was like,
Jeudy over Tim Patrick.
Well, of course you take Jerry Jeudy over Tim Patrick.
That's what I'm saying, though.
But if a team, I know, but if a team is like, we'll give you a first for Jerry Jeudy, you do it 100 times out of 100. I know, I'm not saying it will, but yeah. I don't know. And he has to get paid, and it's a matter of, do you want to pay him next year? What do you do with cap space? And if you don't plan on playing him next year, you better get rid of him this year. So
yeah, and speaking of players too, before we get to our next headline, what I really want to make a point to is, if you're a Chargers fan, you might have to sacrifice Khalil Mack this year. You're in the negatives. I want to say it's negative $20 million, and cutting Khalil Mack will free up it'll net $23 million in cap alone. I fully expect him to hit the market, and that was news to me as of just a couple days ago. I don't know how true this report is. I'm hoping to talk to people that have inside sources, because I'm starting to get people that know a couple things surrounding my Bears, and it's really cool. But which, by the way, if you're sticking around and expecting a guest this week, I apologize. We are very much trying. But the guest that I was wanting to get, I'm going to keep a secret, but I think that we're going to try for a little bit later, hopefully after the season. But there's a couple more people that I have in mind to maybe fill that time gap, so we'll see. But, when it comes to that, though, Khalil Mack, I'm hearing that he's interested in returning to Chicago if he is cut. Now, clearly he wants to stay a Charger if he's going to stay on the team. Yeah. But if he were to be cut, then I'm hearing that he'd be more than interested in coming back. Now, that would have to make sense financially as well. But who knows?
Love to see him.
I'd love to have him back. I don't have anything against it. I think it would be great. And I still have a couple jerseys in my closet I'd like to wear again. So, but anyways, yeah, just wanted to make note of that for people that were unaware, because that's a big defensive end. Although he's 31 years old, he's still a force to be reckoned with, especially if you have draft capital like the Bears, or maybe even the Cardinals, who just let go of J.J. Watt, who have the third overall pick. If you're the Cardinals, maybe if you sign Khalil Mack, you draft Jalen Carter, now you've got a beast of a defensive line.
You say that, and I think that's awesome. But like you said, with the age of Khalil Mack being 31, pass rushers usually don't hold up past like the 33, 34 season. So the contract he's going to sign is probably going to be a 2 or 3 year deal.
That's what I'm thinking.
He's one of the best pass rushers in the league. And as far as this year, the top player in this draft is this dude who we can see be a generational pass rusher playing 4-3 outside linebacker, which is basically the same thing Khalil Mack plays. So if you're the Bears, go and pay him a 2-year contract and have Will Anderson learn from him
on the other
and
end.
then you have now you have a beast of two ends, and then when he leaves, you have this dude who was mentored by one of the best edges of like his time.
Yeah,
I don't know. It'd be fun to see. That's for sure. It'd be definitely a scary edge for any offense.
my boy Travis Gibson too would be a solid depth piece in that.
Exactly.
Complement either player just in case the other one doesn't work out or something like that, or gets injured or something like that. Travis, I've learned I'm a big fan of him. Okay, don't get me wrong. I love this guy to death, and I'm hoping to have more conversation with him later. But he's the word to describe him as a complimentary player. As much as he's not going to be the top guy. But if you have a strong piece
in a season,
no. But if he were to have that top option on the other side of the line, that's when he's gonna,
like we saw last year. Well, I guess last year for me because my team's still playing this year, but
right. Yeah. No, that's the thing. Yeah. What I'm saying is though, because he didn't have that much experience with pressure. Not putting pressure, but being applied pressure to his pass rush. He was getting doubled a lot and stuff like that. So that's why I'm saying that. But anyways, our next point, Steve Wilkes promoted from defensive coordinator to head coach for the Cardinals. Kind of a nice segue, just considering the fact that Khalil Mack could go there, be the next veteran end for that team. D'Amico Ryans was the next hire coming for the Texans. He's going to be the head coach there. Solid pick.
I just hope they don't freaking fire him after 1 year like they did with David Culley and like they did with Lovie Smith. That leaves the Colts job. I heard a super fun theory on Colts Twitter the other day too.
Oh geez.
Because rumors come out that like Jeff Saturday is like in the running to be their next head coach. And you're like, really, what are we doing here? And the theory is Jim Irsay is like pumping this Jeff Saturday thing because they know that they weren't going to get a top head coaching prospect. Mm-hmm. So now when they hire anyone other than Jeff Saturday, Colts fans are like, thank the Lord it's not Jeff Saturday. So now they're going to be super happy that it's anybody but Jeff Saturday. So it's like a theory that they have, which I think is very pessimistic and up my alley. I enjoy that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, for sure. So our next couple headlines, they're really stupid. This next one saying Justin Fields will stay the Bears quarterback after rumors of the front office exploring other options. Hey, that's crazy. Grass is green in other news. Kyle Shanahan said in a presser that there's also no future for Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers going forward. Kind of sad to hear him say that. I'll be completely honest with you, but at the same time, it doesn't make sense for both sides, so it's not going to happen. That being said, we're going to go ahead and move on to overreactions. So I personally have I have three that I want to talk about. Okay, I added a couple since we last talked. First thing being Aaron Rodgers is not going to retire this season because Tom Brady's gone. Yeah. I don't see him doing that. Plus, he's leaving a lot of money on the table. He's just leaving too much behind for a lot of potential, but he won't be in a Packers uniform. I'll just go ahead and say that. The next one, the 49ers should trade Trey Lance. You've got a quarterback in Brock Purdy. You're thinking maybe, Matt Ryan is going to be available. So do you sign Matt Ryan to a cheap deal to be a backup? I'm not saying trade Trey Lance to start Matt Ryan. I'm saying trade Trey Lance because Brock Purdy was good enough. Next up, let me just preface this. Okay. This is not my take. I saw this online. But it's one that's been talked about and it's going to really make you mad. The Eagles had a cupcake run to the Super Bowl.
It's dumb.
So,
it's truly dumb. And I've seen it so much. And it's truly dumb for two reasons. A, you can only play the team that's in front of you. Like NFL Twitter wants the Eagles to play the Chiefs, the Bills, the Bengals, and the Monstars. That's what they want their entire schedule to look like, is those 3 teams and the Monstars. Okay, it's wild to me. They want them to play like the 80s All-Star team, the Michael Jordan Bulls team. That's who NFL Twitter wants them to play. So you can only play a team that's in front of you. But the Eagles are also 9-0 against winning teams, which is tied for the most in a single season in NFL history. And if they win against the Chiefs, then it will be 10-0, which will be the most in NFL history. Right now, again, you're 9-0, which is tied for the most. So for people to be like, it's a cupcake schedule, it's not. It's just not. I mean, did they have easy games in there? For sure. But I think people are like going way too far with it. And again, when you hear that fact, I mean, that's all you have to hear. I think people go way too far with it because people love to hate Philly, and that's okay because it's a Philly thing.
Well, we talked about it in our separate group chat with Bucksworthy podcast host Matt. We love Matt. Matt's a good guy. So now that the Saints have a couple more picks in this year's draft, moving on to my second point, I mean, should they potentially look into trading for Trey Lance if he's available? I mean, he doesn't have that big of a cap hit, and he's still pretty young. He's serviceable, can move. I mean, him with Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara, if they decide to keep Michael Thomas, and not to mention Chris Olave, that's a pretty solid offense.
And it's great that you say that because I had one overreaction for you this week, and it just, what in the world are the Niners going to do back there at the quarterback situation? Yeah. I've firmly been in the camp. I've said it when Braggs was on. I've said it in conversation. If you were the Niners, you would be dumb to get rid of him. You would have invested so much in him. You are not going to get back what you've invested in him. You're not going to get back what you invested in him.
Yeah.
You invested in him for a reason at that point. Let him play out. And yes, we didn't see Brock Purdy for a full game. But what we did see from him, he had one drive, so it's hard to even assess it. But he looked scared. He did not look like the Brock Purdy that we came to know. And he was the third string on that team for a reason. I think, and I keep on saying it, you have to just let it play out. Right now, you go into the offseason. It looks like, we should have covered that in the news. Purdy has a UCL injury, which is the elbow, and that's the Tommy John surgery.
Like MLB, I want to say 6 months, right? I thought it was.
No, 6 weeks. So for the NFL, for the MLB, like when a player gets Tommy John surgery, like they're out for they're out for a year. But NFL players, it's not that big of a deal. I mean, we literally saw Josh Allen play on it, the last 10 games of the season. It's because the throwing motion is different, and the way you have to grip the ball, this versus this, is different. So he'll be out for 6 weeks, but he should be good come time for like OTAs and camp and stuff. I think you go into camp and you say Purdy's the guy. Lance, take it from him. And if he's proven he can't take it from him, at that point, then you trade it. But you got to, again, you've invested so much in him for a reason. You got to let him show. The dude has played, I think, 6 NFL games in 2 seasons.
Yeah.
You just have to, it's just one of those things. It has to be like a trial by fire. Throw him in there, see what you have with him. And like you said, he has a big arm, but we knew coming in that he was going to be a developmental guy. Let him develop with the talent you have around him. And then if worse comes to worse, bless you, trade him to the trade him to somewhere else. But as far as the Saints, Matt, if you're listening, plug your ears. One that I saw was I think it was like a 3rd and a 4th round pick for Derek Carr, which I would love for them because they have and we've talked about it. They have the weapons in place to be a good team.
Yeah.
They have a really good tackle in Ryan Ramczyk. They have Marshawn Lattimore. They have who I think should have been a finalist for Offensive Rookie of the Year but didn't. They have Chris Olave. They have Alvin Kamara, which we'll have to see how that situation goes with this whole court stuff. But they have the weapons and pieces around them to be a good team. They just need that guy. And I don't think there would be a Super Bowl contender with him, but I think we could see that jump. And I think trading a 3rd round pick for Derek Carr would not be a bad idea if you're a Saints fan. But I know Saints fan. hate on him on Twitter. Saints fans do not like the idea of Derek Carr in a Saints uniform.
You know what I'm seeing? I mean, I've seen this constantly with my own team. So when it comes to stages of an NFL team, you go from nothing to, oh, I've got a little bit of something going on, to, oh, now we've got potential. Now we have flexibility. Now let's see what we can do, to a growing team that's just waiting to blossom, and then a really good team, and then you kind of start disintegrating. So from that good team, you start losing a couple players, and then you start losing a couple more players. And then eventually those players that you won the Super Bowl with or were really good with or something like that, they start aging. And so some of them retire, or some of them just kind of their contracts expire and you just don't want them back because they're just not valuable anymore, or something like that, right? So then the franchise starts disintegrating just a little bit. You have people that retire, you have people like that. And so with that, my point is, you start kind of repeating the cycle in a sense with the pieces that you had, and then the pieces that you're still, moving in. If you're a good front office, you tear it down and you build from the bottom up, and you just start fresh. But
completely disagree.
what I'm going to say is I am seeing a disintegrating franchise at the moment with the Saints, and I don't see them being a contender, and I see that they are on the very cusp of a rebuild soon. And it sucks because, Ben, you and I, we're so much on the cusp of such greatness. You especially with your team in the Super Bowl, but mine because there's so much flexibility where it's going to be entertaining either way. But Matt, buddy, I love you to death. But the thing is, with your Saints, it's just there's either, there's cap space issues. There's constant injuries. You have pieces, but like you don't really want to trade them because they might just be the only thing that's kind of working for you. Cough, cough, Alvin Kamara. You have a quarterback controversy that hasn't been okay. Marshawn Lattimore. Okay, cool.
Ryan Ramczyk.
But my point being, you have a couple good pieces. Yes, I could see them moving away, but my thing is, I'm seeing this franchise kind of transform into that, and I know this because I was there. I've done this before countless times.
On the flip side, we won a Super Bowl and then won 8 games, and then I think won 7 games and then 4 games. You went from going to the Super Bowl to steadily losing games, and then out of nowhere, we took a playoff run. Now we're back at the Super Bowl, and we have some of those old pieces left, but we still have guys like Lane Johnson, like Jason Kelsey, like Brendan Graham, even, that people again tend to forget about. And if you can surround those guys with that talent that's needed, and it seems like they have that core there, you can make that jump again. And it's really just a matter of a front office. And I trust Mickey Loomis, the Saints offensive coordinator. But like you said, they're in this weird middle ground where like you either trade and restart or you make that final push, and you have this year to decide. You have to decide this year.
That's the thing. They are in that weird middle ground. And the thing is, they're going to need more than just one big push. Like that one trade for Trey Lance is not going to be enough.
No.
They need a couple more big pieces. And what really put that stake in the ground as we're kind of waving the white flag soon is they traded CJ to you. They got rid of Gardner Johnson. And that makes sense. And that's kind of how it starts.
Sorry. I got hold on, give me 1 second, guys.
I'm so scared.
It's okay. So that's great. Anyways, no, so basically what I'm saying is this is when it starts. This is when the franchise starts moving on to somebody else. And to maybe just transform into it. You start trading away your star players just because you don't want to pay them anymore. Look at, say, and I know that I reference the Bears so much in this podcast, so I apologize if you're a fan of literally anybody else. But the thing is, if you are a Saints fan, you're looking at this almost like a Roquan Smith situation for the Bears. The Bears didn't want to trade Roquan Smith, but they also didn't want to pay him the amount of money that he was kind of deserving of. So my point being, as unfortunate as it is, as much as I would love for all of our teams to be competitive at the same exact time, Matt's just doesn't seem to be going in the right direction if you are a Saints fan. And it's just not going to be solved by just one or two quick, easy moves or not a draft pick or anything like that. You could trade for Derek Carr. That'll be great. That sounds like a Saints move. But the thing is, they can only stay in the veteran quarterback room for so long. They had Andy Dalton this past year who didn't perform that bad. Like, he wasn't that
Derek
awful.
Carr's better than Andy Dalton.
He is, but I'm just saying, like, you also had Jameis Winston start. And what I'd put Derek Carr is like a step above these people, but they're not. He's not that far off. Like,
no, but no. My thing is like you now have a first round pick that you can continue to go.
Do you trade a third round pick for a quarterback that just had Devontae Adams and couldn't make it work with a defense that wasn't that bad?
Oh, come on, it was much more than just that.
He had an all-pro running back in a wide receiver room that was actually taking off. Like, I understand there were injuries and everything, but that's a part of the game.
I get what you're saying, but I don't know. They played in a way worse division. Let's be honest. Anyone in the AFC South can make a push at any point because that division is so bad. And let's be honest, a completely different point real quick. Caleb Williams, you are a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. Besides the point.
Like that. I actually really like that. I don't know.
Well, they're gonna be really bad next year to the point where like they will have, unless they trade for Trey Lance or draft Anthony Richardson. But I don't know. I think that division is so bad that you go out and you try to compete and you have a first round pick, see what you can do with that. Give it a year, and again, if it's not, then tear it down. That's a wonderful thing about being in that middle zone is if you don't succeed, tear it down and restart.
What I really want to say as well. So if you follow me on Twitter, I tweeted this out. If you've listened to previous, you saw this, I'm assuming. Thanks for leaving a like on it, buddy. Anyways, he didn't. That's the joke. But anyways, so
and once you're done, I feel like I have to explain myself real quick.
No, it's fine. So pretty much what I want to say is, and I've said it already on the podcast, so I'm going to repeat it. A quarterback needy team will not give up their best wide receiver option if they're looking to compete in 2023. So look at the Raiders, for example. Devontae Adams, off the table. You could sit here and create as many draft scenarios and trade scenarios as you want on PFF, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen. A team that's on the cusp of a rebuild, just like the Saints are, for example, is what the Bears should be looking for potentially at that number one pick. And so you're looking at teams that, like I said, are quarterback needy. But if, let's say, for example, okay, if you're quarterback needy and you're trying to make that next move, you're not going to get rid of their top option. So these moves that I'm seeing, Indianapolis moving Michael Pittman to go and draft Bryce Young or Will Levis, that doesn't make any sense because then his top receiver is going to be who? Alec Pierce? Like,
no, but like your point though, you scrap it and you're restarting, and you do what you have to do to find your. I don't think it's a good idea. I've always been in the camp you build your team, and then you get your franchise quarterback. Yeah. But NFL teams don't think like that, and GMs we think of it as like a 10-year thing. Me and you were thinking of the future of the franchise. An NFL GM is trying to do what can I do to get to next year. So
my thing is, I mean. From my point of view, if I'm a general manager and I'm let's just stick with Vegas, okay? And I'm making a call. Hey, look, I really like Bryce Young. Want to pick him first overall. I'll give you this, and this. Chicago says, all right, I'll do that, but I want Devontae Adams. They're not going to do that because that's like one of the top 5 wide receivers in the league. He's amazing. But the thing is, and especially when you have, like that rookie quarterback.
Oh, now the Raiders. Hold on. I'm sure the audience can hear you. I have lost you.
I don't know.
I don't know what's going on.
Let me check my settings at the moment just to see.
Yeah.
No, I should be good. Who knows? But I'm just gonna keep going there. So, like I said, though, I mean, as far as the Raiders go, You're muted. Anyways, so yeah, no, as far as the Raiders go, for them, maybe, just maybe, because you have, Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller and stuff, and you could draft another wide receiver and stuff. So, like, there may be, but the thing is, you look at a team that's on the cusp of a rebuild, like the Buccaneers, who just lost Tom Brady, like, that could be something that I could definitely see. And you're muted at the moment. I can't see you. Anyways, yeah, so
Yes.
I was like, but yeah, so it's like, the Buccaneers,
Mhm.
they are absolutely at that. All right, look, we didn't do it all what we thought that we were going to do, and
Yeah.
our franchise quarterback just left. We have a young quarterback, but he is not exactly what we wanted.
No, you don't start with Kyle Trask.
So you trade and you burn it down.
Mhm. Yeah.
Dare I say the Cardinals might be there too? I mean, who knows?
Not when you're paying a quarterback that much money. You can't.
I'm not saying they're going to trade for a quarterback, no, but I'm just saying. I mean, they're already looking at trading DeAndre Hopkins. Like, what if they want to as well? I don't know. It's something to entertain. We've got plenty of offseason to kind of look at it and see what could potentially happen, especially after next week. So. Dude, I'm nervous for you. Let me just say, like, as we approach the Super Bowl, and I'm like, please, Philly, don't lose this game, because I cannot take it as your friend to see you so depressed the week after. Like, Ben, how you holding up? It's like, well, I contemplated suicide 3 times this week. Like,
oh God. Yeah, forever he's joking.
No, that's not okay.
Yeah.
For one, I'm very tired. For two, totally a joke. If you need help, go search it. But definitely,
Lord, I would love for it to happen. I've already mentally prepared myself for it to not happen. And the beautiful thing about, if the Sixers lose, it's bad. If the Phillies lose, I went through it a little bit when the Phillies lost the World Series, which would suck if the Phillies got to the World Series and lost, and then we got to the World Series and lost, or not World Series, but the Super Bowl. It would just be, But the beautiful thing about this, again, it's episode, I've already seen it, but it's episode 54. If you have been with us from episode 1 through episode 54, if you have been with us from episode 10 to 54,
53, welcome.
Yeah, welcome. Hi, thank you. But even 53, I'm sure you could have been able to tell by the way that I have talked in certain segments more than others. The beautiful thing is, once the season is over, it's draft season. So the best way for me to dump my heart out after a loss is figuring out who the heck we can pick up with 10 and 31 to get us right back in that position to win it next year. Draft season is great, but the Eagles, it's going to be fun. We will get into it next episode. And then real quick, I feel like I had to explain what happened like 10 minutes ago. Again, if you guys were with us, I think it was episode like 4 or 5. You guys know who my girlfriend is. I'm sure like half of our listeners know who my girlfriend is. She just walked into my room. She doesn't live in this house. So when she just walked in, it frightened me. I was not expecting her to just walk in. So she just came to visit and to top off ice cream because she's amazing.
Hey, man.
But yeah, so that's why I screamed, and then I think it got disconnected because I think when she turned on her phone, it connected to the AirPods. But yes, it'll be great. And like you said, we got next 15 more weeks to talk about the offseason. So,
well, the good thing is as well, just literally 2 weeks after the Super Bowl ends, the scouting combine begins. So right after, we might have access to scouting combine tickets. Who knows? We're not going to bank on it. We'd love to go, but who knows? Anyways, so let's go ahead and move on just a little bit, just because we've got our next point. So we're not doing Pigskin Pick'em this week because, we don't have any games. There is no Pro Bowl game or anything like that. And even if there was, I'll be completely honest with you. When it comes to the Pro Bowl, just give them their honors. It doesn't matter. Let them take their vacation off, whatever. But we don't have any games to cover, so we're skipping that segment today. But there is a pretty big topic that we need to talk about and it's whether or not the NFL is rigged. And I mean, it really came up right after the Bengals and Chiefs game. Ben, I know you're heavily against it being rigged, but I'm gonna play a little bit of devil's advocate.
Yeah.
Just because I can't. Now let me start off really quick.
In NFL Twitter / Instagram, by the way, has like took what Adrian Foster Adrian Foster. For those who don't know, everyone's like, oh, it's rigged. And then Adrian Foster came out and was like, the NFL gives us a script each and every year, and that's what practice is, and blah 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 blah. I love NFL like Twitter and Instagram because they took that and ran with it when it came to making memes, and it's been phenomenal. It's been like some quality NFL content.
Yeah, no, it's been great. My favorite one that I saw was Jason Pierre-Paul reading his script in like 2015 or something like that, and it was just like he's like looking at his hand. Anyways, so the main point in all of this happened from a tweet from UberFacts, which is a verified account and has been a verified account for years now. And so when it comes to business and how the NFL is looked at, they're recognized as an entertainment business rather than a sport business. So like they can legally fix the outcome of games. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that they are, but it definitely caused some speculation. So I mean, as far as that goes, I mean, I don't know. You can go.
I remember when that blew up, because that was like this huge thing, and everything was like, oh no. And then I looked into it, and the NFL is considered an entertainment business, but it is sports. So legally, with Vegas behind them, I mean, there could be like sketchy stuff going on behind the scenes with Vegas involved. But legally, since Vegas is involved and you're betting on it, it cannot be scripted, quote unquote. People still are like, oh, it's
Not
scripted
true.
and Vegas is in on it. But that tweet that came out was not true.
Everyone not true.
Ran with it. So
WWE, every pay-per-view, you can bet on the matches via DraftKings. It's a promotion that they run everything. It is a scripted, predetermined match that you can bet on. If you want to just spoil the pay-per-view for you, look at the odds. But here's the thing, though, okay? One theory that I thought was very interesting, some of it's rigged, some of it's not. Now, let me just tell you this. First off, before I get to this theory, I just want to say when my team loses, yes, it's totally rigged. But when they win, it's absolutely not. No, anyways, but the theory states, so they let half the season play out. Right? And they don't do anything. They don't fix anything. That's when it starts really taking off. That's when popularity starts really taking off because it's the beginning of the football season and fantasy football is happening, right? So once the stars of the league start being determined, such as Jalen Hurts this season, who wasn't really a star that big of a star, at least last season, you have your Justin Fields, right? Or Justin Fields or your Josh Allen's and whenever he started as the quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, for example, you get your stars, right? And then they decide who they want in the Super Bowl. Now, this would mean, kind of rigging games to see, not rigging games as far as predetermining them, not a script or anything like that, contrary to popular belief, but more so calls. Who's going to be more lenient on what team and stuff like that, and the crews that are put out there on the field and everything like that. So now you're talking that way. The playoffs are still entertaining and are still as equally as a big draw as possible, and as entertaining as a draw as well. So you have these matchups, like for an example, in the divisional round this year, you have Brock Purdy, which is, you look at the storyline, right? You look at, Dak Prescott, who he's on a quest to kind of, make up for his playoff run last year, which the Cowboys should have done so much better, but Dak Prescott and Mike McCarthy and all that started kind of ruining that, and he ran it right when time was expiring, which is not a good idea. So the storyline is Dak Prescott's moving forward, and then you have this bright star in Brock Purdy, which everybody is nationally loving on because it's this Mr. Irrelevant story where nobody really expected this guy to be good because Mr. Irrelevant is notoriously known for not being a star in the NFL. Moving on to being an undefeated starter against Dak Prescott, that's a great storyline. And then you also look at, let's look at the AFC, for example. So you have the Bills and the Bengals, right? Now, let's not say, or go as far as to say that that's a rigged thing because this wasn't at all intended on happening. But because of what happened to Damar Hamlin, and this is disgusting to think about as a fan and as a person, but as a business standpoint, this is not at all what matters. When the NFL saw Damar Hamlin go down, and I'm not saying this as something I fully believe in, but more so something to help the argument. When the NFL saw Damar Hamlin go down, they saw money bags. And so when it went forward, they had the Chiefs. They had, the Chiefs taking the number 1 seed, which ultimately set up the Bills to go up against the Bengals in the divisional round in a game that should have been one of the best, if not the best, primetime game of the season. So much is on the line. Now you're playing this game in Buffalo, where Damar Hamlin and the Bills are from, and you're also playing this with the Bengals, which have a vengeance because they got screwed out of potentially a home field advantage.
Yeah.
That's the storyline there. What I'm saying is you're building these storylines, right? And just really, really killing it on that, right? And now for the Super Bowl, you have the Eagles, which, in a rising star in Jalen Hurts, have made a move to get A.J. Brown to where that's huge news. And, might I even say league-altering news, and then going on to say Jalen Hurts is an MVP candidate. Guess what? Jalen Hurts is your next star of the NFL. And I'm not saying he is the face of the NFL, but what I will say is he's a top 5 quarterback in the NFL because the NFL says so. And Patrick Mahomes, who has been the star child of the NFL since the year after he was drafted, and, he's taken to Super Bowls and everything. He conquered Tom Brady. Oh, no, did he? He lost to Tom Brady in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. He beat the Niners.
He beat the Niners, yeah. So, and he was still very young when he did that as well. So what I'm saying is they're building these storylines. They're building up these players based off of their performance in the first half of the season, and they're letting that ride out. And then once they figure out who they like, that's when they push the agenda to where these players go in because the NFL likes them. Look at Aaron Rodgers, for example, man. How many times?
My thing is people hate Aaron Rodgers. The NFL would have made more money.
Let me tell you
with
this:
Aaron Rodgers absolutely sucking and the Lions making the playoffs, than they would have had Aaron Rodgers being good.
That's great, but at the same exact time, Aaron Rodgers is he's towards the end of his career, and as a professional wrestling fan, I know these big companies like to build villains too. They really do. And so when they have these players, hey, Aaron, you've won a lot of games in Chicago. Maybe what you should do is your discount double check celebration and tell everybody that you own them, right? That's a great celebration. I'm not saying that that's what happened, but what I'm saying is that builds a villain character that everybody's going to hate, at least in Chicago, one of the biggest markets in the NFL world. That's huge. Not only that, he's an extremely cocky player. He's a guy that you're going to hate. Another guy that you're going to hate, look at Tom Brady, Deflategate. Another coach that you're going to hate, Bill Belichick. Here's another one of those guys. How about a superhero? I love to root for this guy in Peyton Manning. And then you also have the arch villain in Ben Roethlisberger.
Okay, well, Ben is also just a really bad person.
He is, but the thing is that just proves my point. Hey, buddy,
he's an awful person outside of football.
It's like you screwed us over. Here's a suspension and a fine. Now go be our bad guy. It works, does it not?
Okay. And here's my thing. I'll let you take a breather here.
It's a compelling argument. I'll say this.
It's a compelling argument, and to the point, I do think, as far as superstars, the NFL is probably like calling down to the refs and saying, "Hey, give Patrick Mahomes more leniency if someone touches him, just like they did with Tom Brady with the roughing the passer. Throw flags on this dude to help him a little bit, and well, not throw flags, but I think it's like if there's any question, do it because he's the superstar of our league." And the NFL cannot afford for Patrick Mahomes to go. I mean, they can, but it hurts their brand if Patrick Mahomes misses the season with an ACL injury, or if Patrick Mahomes gets 3 concussions and his hands starts curling up. The NFL can't allow that, and that is why I do think there is merit to the NFL calling more stuff on Patrick Mahomes than Joe Burrow, for example. I think that was BS. I think Joe Burrow got roughed. Definitely. I think like Frank Clark took like 4 steps before like shoving him to the ground. Don't know how that didn't get called. So I do think there's merit to them like being more lenient with some players and less with others. Like if Sue does something that's questionable, the NFL is gonna flag him just because he's shown he's been a dirty player.
It's your villain.
And I get what you're saying as far as that, but the NFL, even like if it's rigged, you think the NFL would want the NFC Championship game to be rigged to 7-31, the entire last quarter and a half to be darn near unwatchable? If you were any other fan than an Eagles fan, you probably stopped watching that game because the Niners literally could only run the football. They did not have anyone who could throw the football.
Well, that's the thing. I think that the 49ers were bound to go to the Super Bowl if this were going to be rigged, but because Brock Purdy got injured, hey, push these Eagles, okay? Because he's done.
I really don't. Even if it was rigged, I think there was more merit to the Eagles being rigged into the Super Bowl with the whole Andy Reid was our head coach and he couldn't win in the big game with Philly, and now he's with the Chiefs in the whole Kelsey Bowl. So if anything, storyline wise, I do think this probably gives you the biggest storyline. But like with the rig stuff, like as far as storyline, the Bills making it to the Super Bowl and winning, that's the best feel-good story. That is probably the best story in terms of outlook and how the people look on the NFL that they could have. Oh, this player almost died on the field, and his teammates band together and they fought hard for him, and it was this Rudy story, and they went out and they won the Super Bowl and stuff. As far as feel-good stories and stories to make the NFL look good, which Lord knows the NFL needs that right now. There's been a lot of talk about concussions and stuff like that and the players' health and stuff. The NFL slowly over the past 5 years has people are bringing up more health concerns. So if the NFL wants to save their butt, that Bills going to the Super Bowl and winning would have been the storyline. The storyline wouldn't have been the Eagles winning 31-7. And that's my whole thing when it comes to rigged. And I think if it was rigged the way people would have wanted it to be, I think there's merit to, there needs to be villains, but there's so many storylines that the NFL could have really given that would have been awesome that they would have chosen far more over than what just happened over the course of the last 3 weeks. But I do think, like you said, I do think there's merit to the NFL giving calls to some players and not others. Just like if Mahomes got beat up the way Fields did, there'd be a call every other play. Oh, yeah. But it's because NFL, but it's because Patrick Mahomes is the star, and Justin Fields at the beginning.
We're gonna get a couple more calls next year. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but Justin Fields at the beginning of the year was someone that not a lot of people were even interested in outside of Chicago. So I do think there is merit to that.
Let me ask you one final question, okay? And then we'll move on. Did you watch and root for the Browns during their one playoff run not too long ago?
No.
Well, you were one of the few.
One of the few, and I hate to say it. Everyone who watches the podcast knows I'm not a Baker guy. Baker really irks on me. He really grinds my gears. It's the same reason I don't like Conor McGregor. I don't like those guys. So no, but it was at least a fun story to follow for sure.
There you go.
So
everybody loves a good underdog story, man.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody loves that.
As long as it doesn't involve Baker, I'm there. But and then the last thing too, a point that you brought up is like, oh, the NFL wants to push like these certain stars and whatnot. Hurts is one of the least, I wouldn't say least likable, but I'm gonna say least likable, not in the sense that people like hate on him, but in the sense of like he's like not likable. It's not that he's unlikable, he's just not very he doesn't show personality. He's very like, we can do better, and that's it. He doesn't show personality. He's quiet. He sits back, and like the NFL would want to push a more like personality guy. Like the storyline was the Brock Purdy. That would have been fun. Honestly, Justin Fields, in seeing his press conferences, he's a one heck of a guy to like watch. He's
one heck of a guy to watch, but he doesn't really.
But he has a fun personality. Like one of my favorite clips was the. Wait, pause. Like that was fun, and that's what I'm saying. Like Hurts is like.
I want to shout somebody out really quick.
Yeah.
While we're talking about Justin Fields,
mm-hmm.
the Windy City Productions, amazing hype film, man. Great job. I just want to say that. Fantastic job. Love his work. Yeah. It was noticed by Justin Fields, Darnell Mooney, and etc.
Yeah.
If you haven't gone and watched that stuff, go and watch it. Made me want to run through a brick wall. Go ahead and continue. Sorry.
But yeah, and then just so we can round it out, it's just like in the sense that like again, it's not that people don't like. It's not in the sense that people hate Hurts. It's just he's not a fun guy. And I just like if you want to push any quarterback, it'd be this quarterback with like all this like crazy personality and stuff like that. Like look at Joe Burrow. He's super fun and he talks his stuff. Hurts just kind of puts his head down and he puts his nose to the grindstone. That's what I love about him. And honestly, it's a little bit of a refreshing thing for Philadelphia because Lord knows if you guys were on Twitter, you guys saw how crazy Broad Street got there in Philadelphia with fans climbing greased poles, which is just wild. They've like, I don't know what it is. They've like mutated into being able to be resistant to like a grease. So they can still climb these poles and like they were jumping through bus stops and stuff. So it is a refreshing sight to have a calm guy in Philadelphia. But that's besides the point.
So next up, we got our next segment.
Pro football isn't the only game in town. Let's take a stroll to Ben's College Corner.
I need Matt I would love Matt to comment on this to get this going. I don't know if he's listening, but he did just text us. I'm gonna tell him to hop on and comment that so we can talk to him about that. But this week again.
Let me just shoot him an email.
Oh, have pop on?
Yeah.
I think he's at work. I could be wrong. Maybe days is off day. Maybe Wednesdays and Thursdays is off days. Hopefully he's the one listener. And anyways, if you're not, thank you for tuning in. If you're not, Matt, we appreciate it.
Hey, thank you.
But so again, no college football happening. I promise. I know we keep on saying it. Again, we're busy guys. You guys have to remember that this isn't our full-time jobs. It says Ryan works a full-time job outside of this. I'm a full-time student looking for a part-time job as well. So I know we keep on promising it to you guys, but I promise mock drafts will be coming at some point. I promise. Maybe next week, within the few weeks, but by the end of February, a mock will be out. I promise.
I don't know. We'll work on it.
Well, that gives us a month. I promise by the end of the month, one will be out.
At least.
That being said, at least one. But we went over quarterbacks last week. We get to go over wide receivers this week. I don't know how much you know about the wide receiver class, but it's going to be fun because the Bears need win.
Let me just talk to you about a few.
In running backs next week, by the way, if you guys are tuning in, quarterbacks last week, wide receivers this week, running backs next week. So
what I'm going to do, just because I forgot their names because I'm tired, Going through PFF right now just to get a list. Okay. Players that I really, really like and I just remember their names looking at them who I like. Zay Flowers is one of them. I mean, obviously I like Quentin Johnston, but I don't think that he's going to be available. I'm a big fan of Jackson Smith and Najigba because I'm biased, but injuries are a concern. Jordan Addison, I really do like. Next up, I mean, Parker Washington's definitely been on my radar, but I haven't done as much, but I've heard that he's pretty good. So
his good hands.
Yeah. Rashee Rice is my top guy, honestly. Very big on him, but the last time I was really big on a receiver going into the draft, it was Kadarius Toney, so take that with a grain of salt. Next up is Cedric Tillman. That's one guy
That'd be a
into.
lot of fun. Tennessee wide receiver, for those who don't know, big guy. You can jump up and get it. So
yeah. So he's definitely one of them. And the last guy, I'm
trying to think guys that you ran through that weren't on my list. I think everyone that you've said so far has been on my list that we'll get to. And if the last guy you say is on the list, Trey Palmer, the Nebraska kid.
Yes.
Which is really fun because he produced in a not good offense. His offense was not very good. So there's something there. Trey Palmer is a dude that you'll be able to get him in the 3rd, 4th, 5th round. He's not going to go far. He's a fun name to watch in the later rounds, that's for sure.
I'm going to let Ben take the floor for a little bit. But when I come back, I mean, I'm still going to be listening in. Don't be. I mean, this is still staying in.
Yes.
I have to go do something really quick, so I'm going to take myself off the screen. But Ben is going to do a fantastic job of covering the wide receivers. Mm-hmm. I listed mine that I think that you guys should definitely go and watch some film on. If you guys are big on the draft, that's big on my draft stock. They're rising up. Still got a little bit of, and that's in no particular order either. So I just wanted to kind of mention that for sure. Next thing that I want to mention, I'm seeing a couple people live in the chat. So if you would please leave a comment,
drop something,
he'll answer it, something like that. Yes. As far as likes and everything goes, that'd be really appreciated. Subscribe if you're new still. And like I said, leave a review if you're listening after this is put out live. So I'm going to go ahead and take a quick break just because I got to go do something really quick. And then I will be right back. Ben's going to do a fantastic job. And I'll come back shortly.
Yes. I'm all alone. No, that being said, I could see Ryan down there, so I saw him laugh. That's why I was laughing. No, it's wide receivers this week. This class is interesting because there's more so than every other year. Like we knew Jamar Chase was that guy. We knew Jalen Waddle was after him. We knew Devontae Smith was after him. These top guys are not quite to the level that we saw before, but the depth in this class is very, very, very good. And there's 3 different wide receivers I've seen people mock as the number 1 wide receiver. That's Big Q, Quentin Johnston, my guy. I've talked about him plenty of times on the podcast. Just a quick rundown. If you guys haven't been here for the podcast, I've talked about him. He's my number 1 ranked wide receiver. I loved him going into the year when he was ranked as people's 4th, 5th, 6th wide receiver. I was on him, and I'm happy that I rode that train. I was a leader of that train, and now I would say consensusly probably 50% of the people have him ranked wide receiver 1. And that's just because he's 6'3", and he's explosive, and he's really, really fast. And I'm not going to say he's going to be DK Metcalf, but you see 6'3", you see fast, and you see explosion. And DK Metcalf is the guy who comes to mind. And I
just want to say one thing. I am so sorry for interrupting you because I just gave you the floor. Our buddy Matt that we were just talking about for a little bit from his Saints, he is going to be joining shortly. So as I make my short leave,
I'll add him if he pops in.
He will be in shortly. So stay tuned for the crazy Saints fan that we all know and love.
Yes, it's perfect because my guy as my prospect breakdown this week is someone that Matt at the very beginning of the year told you guys to watch. Some dude who's been picking up a lot of steam because of the Shrine Bowl, but we will get to him. He's later down the list. But Big Q, if I had to make that 1-for-1 comp, I see him. I'll add you here in a second once I'm done with Big Q here. it would be DK. I'm not going to say he's DK. He doesn't play anywhere near as physical as what DK is. DK was, even in college, that physical guy. But if I had to make that one for one comp, it would be DK, just with the size and speed. And we saw at the combine, I think DK's like 3-cone was a little bit slow because he wasn't lateral. He wasn't as laterally quick. And we saw that like slip him down to the back end of round 2. I think he was either like the last pick or second to last pick of round 2. So we saw that mistake. And I do think Big Q is laterally quicker than what he is. That being said, I'm smiling ear to ear because, you guys know how much I love the draft. The dude I'm about to add loves the draft just as much as I do. How you doing, Matt?
Yo, what's good?
Did you hear me break down Big Q?
I did.
You have anything to add about that?
No, not really. I have like the thing about Quentin Johnson that I don't know. It's like really like subtle and small, but like that play against Michigan, where he was able to take a drag to the house. Like, it's still ingrained in my mind. Like, I didn't realize a dude who's 6'4" has that kind of top-end speed against, like, legitimate athletes against, like, Michigan,
Exactly.
That's still ingrained in my head.
Yeah, believe me, it's ingrained in my head as well. The second guy I have on my list, which I know you're going to be hurt that who my number one or who my wide receiver 3 is. We've talked about it, but number 2 is Jordan Addison. He's kind of just your do-it-all guy.
Yep.
He does everything. But the thing that stands out, and mind you, for those who listen, as far as these lists, I'm going to make for you guys the next few weeks. Obviously, I don't have the access to all the tape, so I'm not watching all of these players all the time. It's a mix of opinions I've had, games I've watched, and what other people say. But as far as Jordan Addison, he's super strong like before the play or before the catch. He is a great route runner. He understands his leverage. He has really good release, but he doesn't have that elite speed. And the issue that we saw with him at Pitt was drop issues. Is Jordan Addison where is he on your list? Is he 3?
He's about 3. Yeah, I have JSN just above him, just because I think the translatable skills that JSN has is a little more than Addison to me. I think the drop issues are a real concern to talk about, and I feel like just at the top of his routes, JSN is just so magnificent. We were talking about this the other day. Like, he translate. He like, this is a tall ask, but like, he reminds me of Justin Jefferson coming out, prospect only, like a guy who worked primarily out of the slot, had an elite quarterback thrown his way, and he just knew how to separate. Lacks, I don't know if he has the top end speed. Yeah. I feel like I want to see him run. I don't know if he's going to, because we don't know how legit this injury is. If he got surgery and he's going to be out this whole process. But I don't know. Yeah, I do like Addison. Like, all 3 of these guys are surefire first-round picks, along with a guy named Zay Flowers.
Yes,
I've talked about on this podcast before.
Believe me, yeah, we will get to Zay Flowers. And a guy that you just touched on, Jackson Smith-Njigba, JSN. He's my wide receiver 3 as well. I know you mentioned Justin Jets. We'll get to who I think reminds me a little bit more of him. But like, again, you touched on him and everything. Really, the 2 big concerns I have is, while he's twitchy, I would like to see more explosion out of him. But the whole injury thing, most of what we're going off is stuff from last year. He played, I think it was like 3 games this season. He didn't play much. And with that, something that concerns me a little bit is how serious was this injury? Because going into it, when it first happened, everyone was like, it's not that serious. And then I remember he decided to sit out the bowl game. And then it was at that point where I was like, how serious is this? Because if this isn't serious and you're deciding to sit out, concerns me a little bit. I mean, you go out and you get your bag, but I want someone who's going to be fully committed to my team. But if it's a bad injury, obviously you can't blame him for doing that. And then a guy that we've talked about who I really want, After this week, I think Zay Flowers will jump him. But going into the week, it was Rashid Rice. And I said if he's, killed it at the Senior Bowl, I would jump him above Jackson Smith-Njigba, and it just does not seem like it's happening. The big concern with him, as I told you guys about Hendon Hooker, he plays in this air raid offense, and in this air raid offense is a lot of that manufactured space. And the big question with him is, could he create space consistently on his own in an NFL offense? And this Senior Bowl has shown me that he struggles with it. FSU's safety, Jamie something, he struggled with him. He's been playing him really good man-to-man. But that being said, he does have really good ball skills, and he has a good combination of size and speed. When you look at how big he is, guys usually that big don't run as fast as he does, but Quentin Johnson, again, blows him even out of the water. And then the issue, too, is his route tree isn't there. He runs crisp routes, but he just doesn't run a lot of routes. And, again, that manufactured space and him not being able to separate here even at the Senior Bowl concerns me a little bit. And the comp I had to him was a little bit better, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Do you have anything to say about Rice?
Yeah, I don't like him as much as you guys do. I think I'm iffy on him. I don't know if he does have the top end speed. I feel like he's gonna run. It's gonna be like a Treylon Burks situation. We're gonna expect him to run better than he inevitably does.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where I'm at with him. And there was so many times the Senior Bowl reps where he's not strong.
Yeah.
He's not strong at the catch point. I want him to be stronger at the catch point than he is. But
that's the sad thing too, is going into the season, you're like, he's a jump ball guy. He can go up and he can get it.
That's what he's marketed as. Yeah.
But we haven't seen it when he's had to play that press man coverage.
Yeah.
And it's sad because, like I said, going into the Senior Bowl, I'm like, he might be wide receiver 3. And now instead of being wide receiver 3, I think he's going to be wide receiver 5. That being said, wide receiver 5 now for me is Zay Flowers, but he'll end up being wide receiver 4. Zay Flowers is my prospect breakdown for you guys. Usually I save that until the end of this list, but Matt's here. And like I've said to you guys, if you guys listen back, I think it was like week 2, week 3, guys, Matt was high on. You said, watch out for is Zay Flowers. Real quick, though, I see Ryan joined us and he's back. You look like you're eager to say something there.
Now, I don't know how accurate this is, but I know PFF is kind of bumping. Now I know. That's why I prefaced that a little bit. As far as Rice goes, he's moving down the draft board just a little bit.
As he should.
The 3rd round is the perfect time in my eyes to where maybe you can see him. And that's as of right now. Clearly he can move. But right now I think that he's shown enough to where he's not a 1st round guy, not a 2nd round guy, but a 3rd round guy that has a lot of upside in my eyes.
When I look at this class, it's hard for me to say. I think if you are the Bears fan and he's on the board with the Ravens pick, you have to do it with the Ravens 2nd round pick. He even with his poor showing, I still think he's wide receiver 5. You could maybe make an argument for him being wide receiver 6 behind the guy we'll talk about a little bit later. But I do think
Luke Getsy being the head coach at the Senior Bowl makes me feel a lot better at the inside look at that we get on the wide receivers. So Bears fan aside, if you're looking at a wide receiver, I think 3rd round, maybe even 4th is perfect for Rice. But the thing is, when it comes to me as a Bears fan, I'm not even worried about it because I think whatever they'll do in the draft is going to be perfect because they know what they can do with them.
Well, in Matt can definitely tune in on this too. But I as much as I love the Senior Bowl and as much fun as it is to get all these guys from all different levels of competition to go up against each other and see how they play, I do think there are times we overestimate how big of an impact it has. Because as the media, we're like, oh, this is awesome. I remember Jermaine Johnson went out and absolutely killed the Senior Bowl. And everyone's like, Jermaine Johnson's going to be a top 10 pick. It's going to be amazing. And then as the progression got like even close to the draft, like the day before the draft, people were still knocking him top 10. And then the draft rolls around and he gets drafted pretty much exactly where we had him before the Senior Bowl on the back end of the draft. And I do think that we put too much stock, whether it's good or bad, into the Senior Bowl from time to time. But again, talking about these awesome performers at these, postseason bowl games, again, a dude has been lighting up these postseason college games is Zay Flowers. You want to talk a little bit about him, Matt?
Yeah, I mean he's just a guy who wins with speed. He's violently fast is the way I've seen him described, and he wins at the catch point being so small, so I don't project him to be a boundary guy like he's been at Boston College, but I there's just too much value in him, and like he's not like a surefire going to be a home run starter like Olave was like projected as going into the draft, but he's someone I'm willing to take a risk on because that speed, man. He's very twitchy at the top of routes, and
if he's there at 29, I don't know if you we talked a little bit about it about what the Saints look like. We toured with Derek Carr. We'll get to it in a different episode, and we'll talk with you outside of that. But as far as 29, if Zay Flowers is there at 29, and that's a big if, if you were Mickey Loomis, would you take him?
Depends on the quarterback. Wide receiver at like, if you told me this last year, I would have said yes in a heartbeat because wide receiver was such a rough point in 2020. But I feel like with the establishment of Chris Olave and having undrafted free agent, nobody really knows his name, Rashid Shaheed, kind of being Zay Flowers a little bit. And that's kind of why I have high expectations for Zay Flowers in the NFL because of his success. But it's iffy. I think there's a lot more positions of need, but it is a valuable position now. I feel like getting a cheap wide receiver who can be an impact is important. So we'll see. If he's at 29 and the quarterback is settled, then yes, I would like Zay Flowers on my football team.
We will definitely have to have you on sometime before the draft and before free agency gets crazy to kind of see what your outlook on that Saints offseason should be and what direction you'd take the team. But yeah, in terms of Zay Flowers, I will get to his size for you guys here in a second. But like you said, his wide receiver plays for Boston College. He did play outside. The knock with him is his size, and again, we'll get to that. Which means he might only be able to play slot. And then this year he's been fine. In the past 2 years, it's been a catch consistency issue, and it's not how good his hands are. It's been a lot more focus drops. But he's kind of shown this year he's brought it back down to, I think it was 11%, which anything over like that 10, 11 is a concern. But he's at 11, so it's not something you're too worried about. And again, I think most of that is concentration drops. But like you said, dude is like super electric in space and before the route. But he really understands how to use that speed, and he parlays that speed into his knowledge on leverage to become not this amazing route runner, but a good route runner. And again, good in the sense not that he runs these like super crisp routes, but he knows how to use his leverage being a small guy and being fast, that he's good at that. And he's a threat at all three levels as well. He can take those slants and take them 20 yards, take them to the house. And we've seen him do it. He can run these super good, these middle of the field posts, and we can see him run these bombs. He's really good at that. And for his size, like you said, he's super competitive at the catch point. And we usually don't see a dude, and now we'll get to his size, which is the concern. At the Shrine Bowl, he weighed in at 5'9", 172 pounds, which is a bit of a concern. And one dude that we thought going into this, or a couple years ago, you touched on Justin Jefferson with JSN, but in terms of the role, not the player, because they don't play the same game, we looked at Justin Jefferson and we said he has all these amazing, awesome traits, but he might be this only slot guy, and that's why we saw him fall as low as he did. And I think that could be a Zay Flowers case this year with this dude that has all these awesome, amazing traits, and his only downside is his size. And how much is that size going to impact him at the NFL? And as a Devontae Smith thing, we saw, oh, he's skinny. You know, how is he going to do? We've seen dudes succeed, and if that's your only knock, if I'm a GM, I'm going to pull the trigger on him. The next dude on my board that's kind of in the same vein as him is Jalen Hyatt. Do you want to talk a little bit about Jalen Hyatt?
I honestly don't know much about Jalen Hyatt. I just know about the 5-touchdown game against Alabama, really. Oh, where'd he go?
He faded out a little bit. He'll be back.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know much about Jalen Hyatt, to be honest. I know he's a speedster. Want to see him run. It's in that.
I've done a little bit on him myself, and that's another name I forgot to mention. I mean, for Tennessee, which did numbers this last year. With the stats that he put up, and I haven't really watched too much of his footage, but the thing is, I'm assuming that he was a big part of that, considering his stats. You're looking at almost 1,300 yards with 15 touchdowns. That's with only 67 catches on the year. That's pretty huge. And an absolute breakout year after 2 quiet years with Tennessee. Generally speaking, I like that.
Yeah, I have a question for you, Ryan, real quick.
Yeah.
How does it make you feel?
I didn't realize
because you said you've done like minimal research, just on the top end receivers. How does it make you feel knowing that the Bears essentially spent the 32nd pick on Chase Claypool compared to these guys?
Ask me after like week 3 or 4 of next season, and I will let you know. Because right now it's TBD. I think I talked about this in a previous episode, but I don't remember.
Yeah, you talked about somewhere.
Because did his injury require surgery? I know it was like he was shut down for like
I'm not
the last
entirely sure.
5 weeks.
Here's where I stand on it. I think that it's worth it right now, just because people are giving him very little flexibility, and it's not fair to say otherwise. My thing is, when you talk about it, right, that trade, he was just getting ready for the bye week with Pittsburgh, and then he gets traded to Chicago and flung into a situation in which he needs to prep for a game against the Dolphins. And then after that, his bye week isn't until week 14, so you still have about 5 games that you need to play. And so from there, you're learning a new playbook, which has already been told that, oh man, this is pretty difficult to learn. So you're trying to do that. You're trying to mesh with the wide receiver room. You're trying to mesh with your new quarterback and everything. Not to mention, you get injured in the middle of that. You're playing very limited snaps and stuff. So I think that it was a little bit of a learning curve. I think that there's a little more to be seen from Claypool. I'm not willing to count him out just yet. I'm not going to say that he's a wide receiver 1 by any chance, but what I will say is that he's going to be a huge piece for when the Bears do make that next big move. I think the Bears, when it comes to the wide receiver room, if they can get, and I'm not saying that it has to be, top 10 wide receiver, but if they can get a bigger bodied guy that can go up and actually catch the ball and hang on to it, it's going to be huge. And they need a wide receiver 1. And I'm not saying he has to be spectacular, but when you have a wide receiver 1, insert random name here, cough, cough, Mike Evans, maybe. And then Darnell Mooney as number 2, Chase Claypool at number 3, and Equinemius St. Brown, number 4. Your wide receiver room's fixed as far as I'm concerned.
And I'm going to touch on this real quick, and then we can run through the 3 last names I have for you guys. The issue with Claypool is you're like, we need a guy who can go up and get it. And I watched a video on him. Claypool's 6'3". Claypool's super athletic as well. Claypool should be the dude who can go up and get it.
We need a bigger bodied guy, though.
He's 6'3", though. There's not much bigger that you can get there.
Heavier, build.
And the issue with him is being as athletic and explosive as he is, and like being as big as he is, he should.
We need a DK, Ben. And that's what I'm saying.
I watched. but it's weird. I watched a video. I forgot who it was by, but they were talking about how he's a 6'3", go up and get him size wide receiver, but he plays like he's 5'10". He plays like he's Zay Flowers, which is just, it's tough. And then if you're him as well, his contract is done after next year. If you're him,
he's making money.
Why would you re-sign with them instead of going somewhere and playing for a Super Bowl contender? Like you said, we have a whole lot of time. We could talk about it, but due to time, Jalen Hyatt, speed kills. The concern with him is he's only had 1 year of production, and say it with me, he plays in the air raid offense. Concerns me. all these guys who play in the air raid offense, even if you're a tackle and you play in the air raid offense, I'm still really concerned how that translates. And that's going to be a constant thing that you guys hear with me when we're talking about offensive players, maybe outside of the running backs. But you probably won't even hear me talk about running backs who play in the air raid offense because they're running backs, and that most of them, are running the football, and you don't see a lot of these top tier running backs playing air raid offense. So players in general, it's a theme that you guys will hear me talk about. I'm not saying if you play in the air raid offense, you're not going to be good, because there's been numerous guys who've been good, even offensive wise. I mean, even look at guys like Charles Cross. So I'm not saying that if you play in the air raid offense, you're going to be bad, but it's a concern of mine. But yeah, speed kills. It's a conversation I wish we would have had on the podcast, but we just haven't been able to. How important is speed in today's NFL? It's important as long as you know how to use it. And this dude is super explosive, and if you can get the ball in his hands, he's super fun. But he has to show more. He's this super fun track star. I'm not going to say he's John Ross because he's a more developed as a wide receiver than he is, but that's the concern there is, can he develop into that next guy and be more than just speed? And then dude on the flip side, Kayshon Boutte, like we said with Jordan Addison, he's more of your do-it-all wide receiver who doesn't have these super crazy traits. But he is just everything that happened this year with him deleting everything on LSU and kind of stepping away and then stepping back and no longer being the number one wide receiver. And then he enrolled in classes for LSU for the summer and spring. And now he de-enrolled and he's come back into the NFL. That really makes me question how big is his love for the game. I need to see some more character things with him. And I think most of it's due just because of the region and how close they are. But a dude I see constantly mocked in the second and third round to the Saints is Kayshon Boutte. Do you have anything to add about him?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing, like, have you seen the story on why he left? About,
No.
like, with the coaches? Apparently, like, I don't want to get into it, but there was kind of I don't know if you guys are a PG podcast. I don't know if I really want to say it, but apparently there was like a sex party with coaches, and he was like in the know or something like that. And that's kind of why he got out and went to the draft. So it's a weird situation. He's but like that's the off-field stuff. I hope it's not something that affects him into the process. But as a player, I think he is one of those. He was flat out disappointing. I think LSU expected him to be one of the best receivers in all of college football, and he wasn't that. I feel like the effort was always lackluster. The attitude was kind of head down, walking around. So I don't know. I feel like if he can go to a place, like if he stays in Louisiana, I feel like that would give him an attitude jump. But as just a player, he was just disappointing is the only way you could really say it.
If and by no means these guys play similar, like at all. If people followed the draft 2 or 3 years ago and you guys aren't quite there yet, kind of the jump that we were hoping he would make and then didn't reminds me a lot of the whole Tylan Wallace thing. For those who don't know Tylan Wallace, he was an Oklahoma State wide receiver, and we expected him to make this big jump going into his maybe it was his junior season year. And everyone's like, he's going to be this great college wide receiver. But never actually made that jump. And like you said, it's concerning just a little bit that you expect this dude to be this amazing dude and hasn't. But that being said, we all thought, and LSU staff thought, and scouts thought that this dude was arguably the number 1 or number 2 wide receiver going into the year. So obviously he has something there. Like you said, it's just a matter of if a team can find that, tap into that, and capitalize on it. And then just the last dude I have, and he was on the sleeper list that I made as far as before going into the Senior Bowl. But another dude who has really kind of shown that next step in these postseason college games, who he might not be much of a sleeper after this week is done. BYU's wide receiver, Puka Nacua. He's just really fun to watch, and he's played well at the Senior Bowl. And I think this is going to be a dude that we see throughout the next few months, his stock rising. Again, I don't think he's ever even going to get into day 1 or day 2. We might see him sneak round 1 or round 2. We might see him sneak in the back end of day 2 and there in the 3rd round. But he's just like this super athletic dude who has really good hands and really good body control and awesome straight line speed, but laterally it's just not there. And he can't consistently make separation. And it's kind of what we talked about there with Rice. We've seen him do it, but he can't do it at a consistent level enough that makes you confident enough that he will do it at the next level. And that's why he's a 3rd or 4th round guy, because he has the traits, but he hasn't shown for certain that he can do it. And then also a release package, as Ryan knows, as a wide receiver. If you have a good release, you can really set up that cornerback throughout the rest of your route. So you'd love to see him work on his feet there. And he's a good athlete, but I need to see it happen a little bit more laterally. But as far as a 3rd, 4th, 5th round guy, Puka Nacua is a name to watch out for if your team's in a need for wide receiver in those middle rounds. Do you have a later round guy that you think would be a name to watch out for, or any thoughts of Puka Nacua?
A guy like there's been 2 guys that you watch at the Senior Bowl and they just jump off the screen, and the number 1 should be the most obvious one, and it's Tank Dell out of Houston. He's just won every time in ones. He hasn't really been pressed into oblivion, but that's because he's 5'8", 160. So I mean, he projects as a gadget player. He reminds me of Calvin Austin. I think I mentioned that from last year. And then the other guy is Jaden Reed. Out of Michigan State, someone who kind of has had this 7th round grade on him through this whole process. Seeing him at the Senior Bowl, he's popped in ones, and I always like seeing the ones, and then we get to the combine, see how they athletically test. If they can win in ones and they can test in a higher percentile of athleticism, they're going to skyrocket boards, So those are 2 guys I've liked. And as you were talking about the BYU guy, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Yeah, he's been a fun watch. He has been, so we'll see. All I know is the Princeton kid hasn't been as impressive as we projected.
Andre Ivizosa. I can't pronounce him. Yeah, you expected. Like I said, he has that track speed, and you wanted to see more of a wide receiver, and he's shown that he hasn't. But really, the reason more than anything is as much fun as it was to talk wide receivers. And again, tune in next week, guys, for the running backs, because the same conversation is going to be happening here, at least between me and Ryan. But really, the reason that really sparked us to get you to come on was the comment that you made in our group chat. Could you kind of tell people what that was, and then why you believe that?
What was it you said again?
So the reason that we wanted you on in the first place, before we even started talking about that, was me and Ryan both saw that comment you made in our group chat about the Bears. Okay. Yeah, doing something in the off season. Could you explain kind of what that comment was and why you believe that, and why you believe it's a good fit?
Yeah, I just I said it's very, very realistic in my head that the Bears get Saquon Barkley. And it's just like I've seen it all, and I feel like we've all seen it all. The Bears have the most cap space in the NFL by far. There is no receiver in this free agent class that we're breaking the bank for. Maybe Juju, but I highly doubt the Bears break the bank for him. There's a lot of guys that they could break the bank for on defense, at offensive line, but there's no playmakers, and I feel like that's been the biggest vocal point for Justin Fields is we got to get him playmakers. Let's get him this. Let's get him that. Let's get him receivers. Let's get him weapons. Saquon Barkley is a true weapon, and those guys I saw a report that the Giants might not be willing to give him the Christian McCaffrey contract. Well, you know who can? The team who has the money to do it, and the team who needs him the most. And I feel like having that guy at running back minimizes kind of the weaker parts of an offensive line and a depleted receiving core. So that's kind of my thought, is just team has a lot of money and this player wants a lot of money. It makes sense. But the more you dig into it, it's playmaker who makes plays coming to a team who is dying for that. So that's kind of why I believe it.
I mean, Soldier Field has not been nice to Saquon Barkley. So my first question is, why would he want to come here? My second thing is
they give him $20 million a year.
No, I'm not paying a running back $20 million a year.
I have noted, though, I am not a running back guy. If you're a top-tier running back, you give him money. We see what – and he doesn't play the same game CMC does, but he's still a top-tier running back.
Look,
those are the kind of dudes you do pay.
Here's what I'll say, because it's going to switch up really quick. What I'll say is right now I'm not a fan of it. But if and when it happens – that'll be one of the jerseys that I'm gonna buy. One of the quickest 100%. Things. It's gonna be so bad. I'm gonna switch so quick. So just a fair warning, because the Bears have money and they have the flexibility to do it. Do I think it's the greatest idea? Absolutely not. But it'll sell me a jersey. No big deal. So I think that does it for you, Matt. I appreciate your time, though, brother.
Yeah.
And we'll have you on again shortly. I'm very positive.
Crossing the fingers, it's an Indy, man.
yeah, hopefully, yeah. We'll look into those tickets. It'll be great. Maybe we'll put on some content for those listening still. So, Matt, we appreciate the time. We'll keep in touch.
Yep. No problem. See you guys later. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and just for those listening too, that was Matt from Busworthy Podcast. If you guys liked anything that he said, go and find him. I think he's on
Spotify. Yep.
I think he's on Spotify. I don't know if he's on the other ones, but I promise you guys are 100% sure he is on Spotify. So if you guys like what he said, go and tune into his stuff. So sorry, so much for a shorter episode, right?
It's time for America's favorite game, Weddle. What's the name of the segment? Oh, you're not talking about Ryan and Ben? Oh, okay. Well, hold on. I've got it. It's time for Gridiron Goofs.
Now, you might be wondering, why did they play both drops? Well, Weddle's basically serving as Gridiron Goose for us this week. It's been a long week, and we've got some stuff we've got to prep for. So overall, next week's is going to be fun. I already have something lined up for the podcast. So
did you do Weddle yesterday or 2 days ago?
No.
It was bad. They had Hayden Hurst. They had Hayden Hurst as the easy mode, and Jalen Ramsey as the hard mode. I'm like, what are we doing here?
Well, let's see if it gets any better. I won the last round, so I want to go second.
That's awesome.
You know how it goes. If you've been here before, easy mode, we help each other. Hard mode, we don't. This is for all the marbles, and right now, Ben is up 16-11. I'm making a little bit of a comeback, bit by bit. So, Ben, AJ Brown?
AJ Brown.
All right, let me turn this off so you can take a look at what we're doing. All right, so it's 6'1" player in the NFC that's not a wide receiver, and he's a little bit older than 25. His jersey number is a lot higher than 11. 6'1".
Ooh, I saw the jersey number. Nope, I do not know who it is.
I mean,
I was thinking of a smaller player who's younger.
I'm going Adam Thielen, but I know it's not him.
Yeah, he plays wide receiver.
I wanted to try and knock the jersey number out of the way, so we're a little bit closer now at 19.
Who was going through my head originally, and it can't be, was Kyler Murray, but the number doesn't work out, so it can't be Kyler Murray.
Yeah.
But to get the position down and the division down, we will go with Kyler Murray, but it is not Kyler Murray.
So it's an NFC West quarterback.
Come on.
I
know who it is if you don't get it.
Well, I mean, we could help each other out. So I'm thinking Matthew Stafford.
Age, no, but it's the quarterback that took his spot.
Oh, Baker Mayfield?
Yeah.
Solid. Yep. All right. You get to go first this round.
Yeah, AJ.
Another 6'1" player. A little bit
Offense.
younger than 25, and he's an offensive player in the AFC. And his jersey number's a lot lower than 11. 6'1", 24 or 25. I don't know. I'm going with I think he's shorter than 6'1".
Yeah, it can't be a wide receiver now.
Okay. Yeah, fair. Anyway. Yeah, I went with Sky Moore for those wondering. AFC, he's not in the AFC West though. He's not a wide receiver, but he is on offense. He's 6'1", somewhere between 24 and 23. I would assume 24 though at this point, and his jersey number is a lot lower than 24 and 11. So
the age is gonna work out for sure. I know for certain. I don't think the number works out here. But with the height, he has to be running back. And to kind of help us eliminate it, because it's been a long podcast, we're going to go with Breece Hall.
All right. So 6'1", not in the AFC East. He's not a running back.
Breece is a bit younger than I thought.
Let's see. Thinking.
That leaves the Bengals division, and who's the other division?
No, not the Chiefs. The
why?
Colts division.
The Colts division. Ooh. Okay.
I
know who it is.
It's not a. Let's see.
So give it up. I know. I'm pretty sure I know who it is.
I know. I'm thinking because I know that you know who it is.
At least I think. I don't know.
I'm gonna roll with Kenny Pickett. It's not. Dang it.
Ooh, that actually hurt me. Well, now I think I know it's Tyler Huntley. I was actually gonna originally go with Sam, but go with Tyler Huntley. Actually, no. Go with Tyler Huntley.
Okay.
Actually, go with Tyler Huntley. Go with Tyler Huntley. I like.
Fair enough. So
for some reason, I thought you did Lamar, and I'm like, it's not a Raven. It wasn't green. It wasn't a Raven. I can't. But I was like, oh no, you didn't Kenny Pickett. I would have actually went with Sam. Sam Ellinger was the dude who came into mind because Texas, we are not back.
Well, if you made it this far, all 1 minute 43, 45, whatever. We want to say thank you. Thank you for showing your support to the podcast. I'm like crashing at the moment, so that's why it sounds like I'm falling asleep.
Crashing at the moment.
Yeah. So, we want to give a big shout out to Regional Radio Sports Network, Overtime Sports Network, as well as Uppercuts Grooming. And there's one more, I believe, Anchor.fm. for helping us grow our podcast. If you haven't already, or if you can, please leave a review down below because it helps it more than you know. And I'm trying to put stuff together for the next week, but a lot of stuff just keeps getting in the way. So, so thank you for your patience. Thank you for your time. And until next week, Super Bowl week, we'll see you guys next time. This has been the Pigskin Project.
See you guys.